Okay, hello everyone. Clarke Towson here. I'm the CEO of INTJ Billing. Today's video, I'd like to talk about a video that was made about 4 years ago. And the video is by a person by the name of Peter Van Valkenburg. And he is the director of research at Coin Center, which is an independent non-profit organization focused on policy. Now, let's watch the video, and then afterwards, I'm going to go through it, and I'm going to talk about specific sections of the video in the context of the project that I'm running over here in Pattaya, Thailand. Bitcoin is for everyone.
Chairman Crapo, Ranking Member Brown, members of the committee. Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you today. My name is Peter Van Valkenburg, and I'm the Director of Research at Coin Center, an independent nonprofit focused on the public policy issues affecting cryptocurrency and public blockchain networks. What is Bitcoin? Bitcoin is the world's first cryptocurrency, and it works because of the world's first public blockchain network. What does Bitcoin do? It's simple. It lets you send and receive value to and from anyone in the world using nothing more than a computer and an internet connection. Now, why is it revolutionary? Because unlike every other tool for sending money over the internet, it works without the need to trust a middleman. The lack of any corporation in between means that Bitcoin is the world's first public digital payments infrastructure. And by public, I simply mean available to all and not owned by any single entity. Now, we have public infrastructure for information, for websites, for email. It's called the internet. But the only public payments infrastructure that we have is cash, as in paper money. And it only works in face-to-face transactions. Before Bitcoin, if you wanted to pay someone remotely over the phone or the internet, then you could not use public infrastructure. You would rely on a private bank to open their books and add a ledger entry that debits you and credits the person you're paying. And if you both don't use the same bank, well, then there'll be multiple banks and multiple ledger entries in between. With Bitcoin, the ledger is the public blockchain, and anyone can add an entry to that ledger, transferring their Bitcoins to someone else. And anyone, regardless of their nationality, race, religion, gender, sex, or creditworthiness, can for absolutely no cost create a Bitcoin address in order to receive payments digitally. Bitcoin is the world's first globally accessible public money. Is it perfect? No. Neither was email when it was invented in 1972. Bitcoin's not the best money on every margin. It's not yet accepted everywhere. It's not used often to quote prices, and it's not always a stable store of value. But it is working, and the mere fact that it works without trusted intermediaries is amazing. It's a computer science breakthrough, and it will be as significant for freedom, prosperity, and human flourishing as the birth of the internet. And Bitcoin is just the beginning. If we can replace private payments infrastructure, then we can replace other private choke points to human interaction as well. Now, why should we want to build more public infrastructure? Why should we embrace blockchains over corporate intermediaries? Why should we tolerate their inefficiencies and work to make them better? Why should we want the pioneers of this technology here in the United States and not fleeing overseas? A simple reason. Because the corporate intermediaries providing today's critical but privately owned infrastructure are becoming fewer, larger, and more powerful, and their failures are increasingly grave. So roughly half of all Americans, 143 million people, had their Social Security numbers exposed to hackers because of a breach at Equifax. The SWIFT network has relayed hundreds of millions of dollars in fraudulent transactions because of hacked member banks in Bangladesh, Vietnam, Ecuador, and Russia. The FBI suspects now that the largest of these hacks was perpetrated by North Korea. Corrupt, low-level employees at an Indian bank, Punjab National, were able to fraudulently certify SWIFT messages, stealing $1.8 billion. It's the largest electronic bank robbery in history. In fact, it's the largest bank robbery in history. In October 2016, an estimated 1.2 million internet-connected devices were hacked and turned into a botnet that for several hours made prominent websites unavailable across Europe and North America, including CNN and Fox News, the New York Times, and the Wall Street Journal. Increasingly, physical machines are being connected to the internet to augment their capabilities. They're wired through servers that are owned and maintained by private and trusted intermediaries, the so-called Internet of Things. Pacemakers from St. Jude's Hospital have been hacked. Baby monitors from TrendNet have been hacked. And Jeeps from Jeep have been hacked to the point where they can be remotely commandeered and driven off the road. Now, those vulnerabilities are inescapable in systems that have single points of failure. It doesn't matter if the point of failure is a corporation or if it's a government. There shouldn't be a single point of failure. Similar choke points existed before the internet. If you wanted to deliver a message, you'd have to go through one of 3 television broadcasters or a handful of newspapers. Private corporations are essential, but no critical infrastructure should rely on 1 or 2. The internet removed single points of failure in communications infrastructure and ushered in a wave of competition among new media corporations building on top of its public rails. Blockchains can similarly disintermediate critical payments and IoT infrastructure. The technology is not yet ready to answer all of those questions today, but it is our best hope. And as with the internet in the 1990s, we need a light-touch, pro-innovation policy to ensure that these innovations flourish in America for the benefit and security of all Americans.
Now, I thought that was a really fantastic explanation of what Bitcoin is, right? Now, there's specific sections I'd like to talk about, as I said, within the context of Bitcoin is for everyone, the project that I'm running over here in Pattaya, Thailand, in the red light district in Soi 6. So, the world's first public blockchain network, So it's not private, it's public, right? What does that mean? It means that it is accessible to anyone, right? Anybody can use it. This project that I'm running over here, I could have chosen other public rails to run the project on, other blockchains. But of course, I wouldn't do that because Bitcoin is the biggest, it's the best, it's the most decentralized, and it's the only only cryptocurrency out there that has got the level of decentralization and size and is not a scam like so many of the altcoins out there, right? So building atop of the Bitcoin network is building atop of a public network, right? Just like the internet. What does building atop the internet mean? Well, we know when the internet first, back during the 90s, when Sir Tim Berners-Lee invented the World Wide Web, made the internet accessible to the average everyday person for the first time, where it wasn't just academics and people in academic organizations, scientific research organizations and the like that had access to the internet. So Tim Berners-Lee, invention of the web, brought it to a wider group of people. But of course, he built atop of the existing internet. The internet was available at the time. He developed a new protocol, HTTP, what we know today as the World Wide Web. And we've seen that what happens when you build atop the internet and you develop a protocol and then everybody starts using it, we see an explosion of innovation within the space with all the internet sites that we know of today and the massive social media sites and this site, YouTube, where you're watching this video by me. Again, this is YouTube is a private company, of course, but they built atop of the internet, which is a publicly, it's available to anyone to build atop, right? So the world's first public blockchain network. Bitcoin lets you send and receive value to and from anyone in the world using nothing more than a computer and an internet connection, right? To and from anyone in the world, right? Anyone. Bitcoin is for everyone. In Soy 6, the red light district, I'm over here. Those sex workers in Soy 6, they deserve to be able to use Bitcoin just as much as anybody else. And of course they can, because they're not excluded from it because of Bitcoin's property of neutrality, which means anybody can use it, right? It's not limited to, you don't have a corporation who are saying, well, you're not allowed to use this because we don't like your politics. We don't like the fact that you're sex workers. We don't like your behavior. We don't like you, right? That's not the situation with Bitcoin. Anybody can use it, right, to send and receive value to and from anyone in the world, right? Anyone, even people that we don't like, people that don't like me, or that I don't like, or groups that don't like me, or that I don't like, right? Regardless, okay, even you, the viewer, watching this video, you have your own personal likes and dislikes. There are people that you like. There are people you don't like. Groups that you like and you don't like. Maybe you don't like the Ku Klux Klan, right? But I mean, there's other groups out there as well who are doing nefarious things. They have just as much right to use Bitcoin as anybody else. We may not like their politics. We may not like what they stand for, but they can use it, all right? So Bitcoin is for our friends as well as for our enemies. It's available to anyone, right? It works without the need to trust a middleman. Without the need to trust a middleman. Now think about this, right? The service that I'm pioneering over here in Pattaya, Thailand, INTJ billing is a middleman. Right? I have a BTC Pay server. On that server, I've got the ability to set up wallets, Bitcoin wallets, which you've seen me do for a number of sex workers over here in Pattaya. I'm a middleman within the industry. I'm working with the sex workers over here and the bars as well, and the sex workers' clients, the Westerners located in the Western world, right? So I'm a trusted middleman within the space because I've set up the server, because I'm providing the infrastructure, so I've built a top of the Bitcoin network by utilizing BTC Pay, right? Of course, BTC Pay is an open source project, which is available to anyone as well. So anyone could come over here and, similarly to what I've done, set up a server and be a middleman. But Bitcoin, the way that it works, doesn't have to have a middleman, right? So if I didn't utilize BTC Pay server, I could still come over here and help the bar girls and help their clients, right? And I'm decided to do both things, right? So have a BTC Pay server and be a trusted middleman on the one side, as well as on the other side, empowering the bar girls with setting up Bitcoin wallets on their phone and on their mobile devices, taking control and custody of their private keys, storing it at their keys at Siam Secure, because it's highly likely that they'd lose their keys if they were entrusted with them themselves. But those services, Bitcoin will still work without, right? There's nothing stopping an intelligent bar girl from downloading her own Bitcoin wallet or downloading a BitPay wallet, downloading a Lightning wallet, like a wallet of Satoshi, onto her mobile phone, and independently of the bar that she works at, independently of INTJ billing as well, she could, if she's intelligent and she's got foresight and she wants to accept Bitcoin, she could do all that, right? She could do it. And Bitcoin will work just fine. She can send, or she can ask her clients, her Western clients, to send her money in Bitcoin to her phone, and that will work without me being in the middle, without INTJ billing as a middleman. So, of course, the vast majority of bar girls don't have the knowledge, skills, experience to work with Bitcoin at the moment. It's not that easy to use for that particular group of people, which is why I'm here, which is why I am imparting my skills to them, spending my time and energy making videos like these. And soon a video will be made by me working one-on-one with Ladyboy Boy, most likely, setting up a Bitcoin wallet on her phone. So I can show the way, lead the way on this sort of stuff. Bitcoin is the world's first public digital payments infrastructure. The world's first public digital payments infrastructure, right? Public. Now, there's a lot of private corporations out there, and of course, banks, private companies. The rails that banks use, of course, fiat currency, government currency. It's not public, is it? Right? There's a whole lot of private corporations who are spread throughout the traditional financial system, and of course, with using BTC Pay and INTJ billing, private corporation, using an open source software project, BTC Pay, but I'm utilizing that software on top of a public digital payments infrastructure, not a private digital payments infrastructure. So there is a difference there, right? Available to all and not owned by any single entity. Available to all, right? To everyone. Right? Anyone on the planet can use it. Any company, any small group of people clubbing together can build atop of the Bitcoin rails and the Bitcoin Lightning Network rails, right? And not owned by any single entity. So there's a lot of companies out there that have grown big and powerful outside of the Bitcoin network on, in the traditional fiat financial industry, right? But yeah, with Bitcoin as a public digital payments infrastructure, it is available to all and it's not owned by any one single entity. Imagine just like the internet, right? No one corporation owns and controls the entire internet. It'd be a disaster if that ever happened, right? Of course, it's not going to happen because it's sufficiently decentralized that can't happen now. Anyone, regardless of their nationality, race, religion, gender, sex, or creditworthiness, can, for absolutely no cost, create a Bitcoin address in order to receive payments digitally. Anyone, right? Regardless of their sex, their gender, race, religion, nationality. Thai people, sex workers, engaging in sex work for money. Majority are female. Majority of the clients are male. The men are sending the women and the ladyboys money, right? Sending it by Western Union, transfer wires, or just paying it directly in cash, right? These sex workers, if I set up hundreds of them with Bitcoin wallets and both on their phones and on my infrastructure, right? They can all use it, right? Yeah. Bitcoin is the world's first globally accessible public money. Globally accessible, not limited to one country or another, not limited to the policies of one country or another, not limited to what politicians say in one country or the other. And of course, countries of the world, on screen now, various indexes of freedom, how free a country is, how free their press is, whether they're a democracy or not. Maybe they're an authoritarian country, but authoritarian policies. It doesn't matter, right? Bitcoin is the world's first globally accessible public money. Globally accessible, regardless of the troubles in the world, regardless of what one country says or doesn't say. Of course, Bitcoin is not currently legal for payments here in Thailand. So this country, Kingdom of Thailand, has taken a particular stance on it. Regardless of the stance, it still is the world's first globally accessible public money. And the people I work with, they can accept Bitcoin, right? On their phones or on my infrastructure. So it can still be used, even if the government says you can't do that. Government's got a particular policy, it can still be accessed and it can still be used. It's a computer science breakthrough, and it will be as significant for freedom, prosperity, and human flourishing as the birth of the internet. How true is that? I'm a computer scientist. I did my degree in computer science, computer and math science back in between the years 1997 to the year 2000. And those were very important formative years for me. I entered university at the age of 17. I went to Victoria University in Footscray in Melbourne, Australia. And of course, undertaking a computer and math science degree, I was, I had lecturers who are extremely smart, right? Extremely intelligent people who I was surrounded by, both the students as well as the lecturers themselves. Computer science, when there is a breakthrough in computer science, and this includes mathematics as well, computer science and or mathematics, any breakthroughs within those particular disciplines, you really need to take a very, very close look at when breakthroughs occur, because it's the foundation, right, that everything else is built upon. Example, give me an example, Clarke. I worked in supercomputing, worked for a federal government agency, and of course, the scientists that I work with, all PhDs, they were working in a particular field, submarine design, submarine research and development, and there are particular formulas used by these scientists, and I was responsible, of course, for running the supercomputers, keeping everything running and making sure that the scientists had all the compute power they needed to run their simulations, right? Now, when it comes to that, it's really interesting to think. As I said, any breakthrough in computer or computer science or mathematics, anybody who comes up with a particular formula that's a breakthrough, it should be watched very, very closely. So the Clay Mathematics Institute have got the Millennial Prizes, for example. Now, the majority of the Millennial Prize problems haven't been solved. Only one of them has been solved, and that's the Poincaré conjecture. The scientist who solved that, Grigori Perelman, worked for a number of years on it. It's a very difficult problem. And it's as I said, it's the only problem that has been solved. There is an open problem in computer science, of course, as well, P versus NP. Now, all those Millennial Prizes, anybody who solves those prizes, the result of that is we have a mathematical proof. And when that happens, you need to look very, very closely, because it's going to signal another uptick in human development, just like developments within accounting breakthroughs, which I've discussed in previous videos, right? So it's really important when breakthroughs within those particular fields occur, watch closely, because as this guy has said, will be as significant for freedom, prosperity, and human flourishing as the birth of the internet, right? Birth of the internet. The internet has been very, very important to all of humanity. We're building atop the internet. Of course, Bitcoin came after the internet was developed. And it will be as significant for freedom, prosperity, and human flourishing. It's very, very true. If we can replace private payments infrastructure, then we can replace other private choke points to human interaction as well. There's a lot of private payments infrastructure out there, obviously private companies, and we know that within money, there are a lot of choke points in money that lead to a bad experience with it. Just yesterday, I was at the grocery store here in Pattaya, Thailand. It's a Western-focused grocery store. And there was a guy using his mobile phone to do, it's not like a tap and pay like you do with your card, but you can use your mobile phone for it. And he was holding up the entire line because it was just taking too long to process that particular payment. So there's one example of a choke point, right? The corporate intermediaries providing today's critical but privately owned infrastructure are becoming fewer larger and more powerful, and their failures are increasingly grave. Yeah, it's true, isn't it? It's true. Large corporations within the money space, obviously, Western Union is a behemoth, right? There's other companies out there as well, like TransferWise and the rest of them. Uh, Fewer, larger, and more powerful. It's not easy to set up a new payments company and have people start accepting you as a company. They have to trust the company. They have to be assured that it's working correctly, that it's going to guarantee their payments, all that sort of stuff. Of course, governments don't make it easy either, with all the rules and regulations that private payment companies have to follow when it comes to KYC, know your customer, and AML, anti-money laundering regulations. Vulnerabilities are inescapable in systems that have a single point of failure. There shouldn't be a single point of failure. There shouldn't be a single point of failure, right? If we think about the internet is widely distributed. No one failure of any particular node on the internet is going to bring down the entire internet. Back in the early days, there were hackers out there that claimed, right, they could knock out a couple of key pieces of infrastructure and the internet would go down. But we've reached a point now in 2022 where that's no longer the case. Now, we do have large corporations out there, like Amazon Web Services, for example, that technically with one phone call from the US government, the US government could knock out Ethereum just like that with one phone call to Amazon Web Services. That can't happen with Bitcoin, however, right? It's just too far distributed at this point on too many nodes across the internet, right? So Bitcoin doesn't have that single point of failure. Private corporations are essential, but no critical infrastructure should rely on one or two. This is a really good point. So private corporations are essential. Give me an example, Clarke. Well, look at what I'm doing in Soy 6 with the bar girls, right? INTJ Billing, Australian registered company. I need to register a Thai limited corporation. I need to come back here on a work permit and on a business visa when I officially start work over here and turn this concept into a business. Private company in Australia, private company here in Thailand. Essential, right? Essential. And the work that I'm doing on location, working one-on-one with the bar girls, setting up Bitcoin wallets on their phones, setting it up on INTJ Billing's infrastructure, all that sort of stuff. So essential services when it comes to Bitcoin and getting the bar girls set up with Bitcoin. No critical infrastructure should rely on one or two. So at the moment, there is just me, INTJ Billing, one individual, but there are others who will be joining with me shortly. Some more information will come up in the future, in some future videos about that. I am working with one other person who has become interested in this project, a fellow node operator from Canada. So if something happens to INTJ Billing and I get knocked out for whatever reason, the work will continue, right? Because I've put the word on the street. There'll be other people, whether it's, if I'm not here, be the Canadian guy who I'm working with, or it could be somebody else who sees these videos, comes over here, picks up the work, continues on. So that's something that's really important to me. And it's why I made the decision as well to not just set up Bitcoin wallets on INTJ Billing's infrastructure, but to also set up Bitcoin wallets on the bar girls' phones themselves. So they've got the option of using either. I think that's really important. The internet removed single points of failure in communications infrastructure and ushered in a wave of competition among new media corporations building on top of its public rails. This is a really good point as well. If you think about communications before the internet, if you wanted to send out a message to someone, you needed to use regular mail, like literally write a message, put it in mail and send it through the post, right? Or you could broadcast yourself on TV. Of course, that was very difficult because how would you get on television unless you were known and you had an important message or the rest of that sort of stuff, right? But when the internet came along, anybody could communicate with anybody, right? And we've seen corporations grow up and build atop the public internet. Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, Google, all these intermediaries that are built atop of the public internet um, has made it very easy for everybody to have a voice, essentially, right? But our voice still is going through those intermediaries. Think a future internet without those intermediaries, where anybody could have the power of one of these large corporations. Wouldn't that be amazing, right? But I think that's some years into the future. The services that corporations like YouTube, Google, and all the rest of the intermediaries provide are very important today. Blockchains can similarly disintermediate critical payments and IoT infrastructure. Disintermediate, right? A lot of companies in Silicon Valley, when they first saw Bitcoin, they didn't get it, and they didn't want to get it. And the reason why, of course, is because they're intermediaries, and they saw, well, hang on a second, if they embrace Bitcoin, they'll be disintermediated. Think about that today with the project that I'm doing over here in Pattaya, Thailand. Okay, INTJ Billing, Australian company, soon register a Thai company. I'm empowering the bar girls with wallets on their phones. Why do they need INTJ Billing if I'm putting it on their phones, as well as having a wallet on my infrastructure? Well, of course, the storage of their Bitcoin seed phrases, that's a custodianship service that somebody needs to provide. If I'm not providing that, then they would need to look after their seed phrases. And I'm confident to say the vast majority of them wouldn't look after them and would lose them and would therefore lose their money, right? So disintermediate, I think, at least at this stage, INTJ Billing, the services that I'm providing over here and that I'm pioneering and looking to build upon and provide more services, how will I be disintermediated at the moment or for the next couple of years, right? How are the bar girls going to set all this up themselves? If I wasn't here providing these services, they wouldn't be able to do that. If I wasn't taking custodianship of their seed phrases, they wouldn't be able to do that. And there's various other services as well. Of course, Lightning Network transactions. How would they engage in Lightning Network transactions on their own? How would they convert that money from Bitcoin into Thai currency? These are all really important functions that an intermediary like INTJ Billing provides, right? As with the internet in the 1990s, we need a light touch pro-innovation policy to ensure that these innovations flourish in America for the benefit and security of all Americans. That's a really interesting point, right? So the Thai government, they could have said to themselves, hang on a second, this technology is really important. We need to embrace it. We need to make it legal for payments. And we want to encourage innovation in Thailand. But that's not the stance that they've taken, right? Hopefully they'll change their stance in the future. But of course, America, a lot of entrepreneurs will just up and leave. I upped and left. I upped and left Australia because Austrac wouldn't give me permission to be a legal registered digital exchange and money remittance provider within Australia. So, all right, stuff it. I'll come over to Thailand. I'll provide the services in a different way so that they are legal for the time being. And I'll wait for regulations to change in Thailand. And I'll do other things until that particular time. So entrepreneurs will up and leave. They will go to other jurisdictions. If I run into problems over here in Thailand with what I'm doing, I could up and leave here as well and go to another jurisdiction and do the same thing. And that's one of the important reasons I've created this series of videos, Bitcoin is for everyone, because they provide a historical snapshot in time, right, as to what I was thinking at a particular point in time, the subjects I was discussing at a particular point in time, where Bitcoin was, how much its price was, where the Lightning Network was, how many nodes there were, how many new nodes, how many existing nodes, and how that was changing over time. So we can look back and we can see history and say, all right, Well, Clarke came over here in 2022. He pioneered this starting in August 2022. It's now 2025 or 2026. We look back and say, wow, look how early Clarke was. Look what he did over there, right? But as time moves on, these sorts of videos become more important as people look back and say, well, this is where the development was at that particular time. And people will build a top of what I've done, right? If I can't, when you put your ideas out into the world, other people latch onto them and they provide their own set of ideas as well. And you combine the ideas and we end up with a better idea than what any one entrepreneur or the other has had, right? Ultimately, of course, it's for the benefit of the people that the entrepreneur is working for. Now, over here in Pattaya, Thailand, the people who I've touched, the people who my ideas are getting into the minds of, the people that I'm working with over here, they know about this project. They know what I'm doing. They know the reasons why I'm doing it. They can choose to work with me or not work with me. But the point is, with these videos out here for everybody to see, people will know and they'll keep coming back to them and say, well, hang on a second, is the time right now? Maybe the time wasn't right. Maybe it was too early back then, but maybe we should revisit that. And that will keep happening again and again and again to all the people that I'm working with in Soi 6 and the rest of the red light districts over here. The current set of entrepreneurs who are in positions of power and influence, over time, if those entrepreneurs change and new people come in and enter those positions of power and influence, they may have a different set of ideas. They may want to embrace this or not embrace this. Everything is always in a state of flux and changing, right? Obviously, my goal today is to work with the current set of entrepreneurs within the area and to work with them to pioneer this as a service and to work with their staff. So, yeah, I thought this video from Peter Van Valkenburg was a really good one, and I thought it was very interesting, and he had a lot of excellent points. And within the context of the people that I'm working with over here in Pattaya, Thailand, I think all the points that I've been through based on his video, I think, yeah, just very, 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 very interesting. And time will tell how it all goes, hey? Anyway, that's it from me. I hope that you've enjoyed this video. All the best, everyone. I'm Clarke Towson, CEO of INTJ Billing.